Committee of Indigenous Peoples of Russia.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I will speak in Russian.
My name is Dmitry Berezhkov. I am from Kamchatka, represent the Ilmen people, and here I represent the International Committee of Indigenous Peoples of Russia. It's a new organization. It was created in March 2022 after Russian invasion in Ukraine. We created this organization to unite the efforts of the indigenous peoples. I represent indigenous peoples from the north and from the far east of Russia, and we want to express ourselves against this war. Our peoples are very small. Our difference from other peoples of Russia is the following one. Russia recognizes that we are indigenous peoples, according to Russian legislation. If there is a people of less than 50,000 representatives, it's an indigenous peoples, and we are 47 in Russia in total. I don't want to speak about colonization. Other speakers have already spoken about it. The main problem of our people is access to territory, because our peoples have managed to preserve traditional ways of life, reindeers, hunting, etc. That's the basis of our economy. Indigenous peoples live in many regions of Russia, in Khanty-Mansiysk, in Chukotka, in Kamchatka. I am from Kamchatka myself, in Murmansk region, etc. We have made a count. Half of Russian territory is inhabited by them. Well, we are nomadic people quite often. Sometimes, we can be very small. Some peoples have, Ilmen, we are 2,000 in Kamchatka. But as those peoples are nomadic, they occupy huge spaces. Why did Russian Kazakhs invaded those territories? Of course, it was an example of classic colonization. Well, those Kazakhs wanted to hunt furs, because selling furs, it was gold for the 18th century. And from the 20th century, our regions were very important for the Russia, because we have oil, gold, etc. And, all those resources are very important for the Russian budget. Our problem is indigenous peoples, business and state authorities want to share the same territory. We need this territory for hunting, for fishing, and for reindeer breeding. But state and business need this territory for extracting oil, for promoting tourism, etc., for business. And that's the contradiction. We want to have the same territory, but for us, it is important to use those territories in a sustainable way, and the state wants this territory to extract money, and all the environmental factors are just secondary. And it is a big problem. We've always had it, even during the Soviet times and after the collapse of the Soviet Union. But when the war against Ukraine started, those contradictions have become quite acute. I think many of us have heard that there are more mobilized soldiers in the regions than in big cities, in Moscow, for example. And we've recently got a message that in Gvasugi, it's a village in Khabarovsk, they drafted 14 people. Well, 14 people, it's not a lot, but it's 11% of all the men in this village. It's a small village. So, if we use official figures, it's 30% of all mobilized men they need. So those are huge numbers, quite different from official figures given by Shoigu and Putin. We also see that ecological standards have become more relaxed. State wants money, they don't want to pay attention to the environment. We are very anxious about it. We see that there are no more independent environment organizations in Russia, no more independent media. No one can help us anymore. I can give you lots of examples. I'll give you just one. We have a case in court against a reindeer breeder who is in conflict with an oil production company. And a few years ago, it was a very strong case which attracted attention from the world media, but now everyone is ignoring it. There is no more Western business in Russia. It's a problem for us because Russian or Chinese business don't pay attention to international standards for environment and for indigenous people's rights. International standards and international law is a key factor for our survival, not only in Russia, but in the whole world, in Latin America, in Africa, etc. We have Article 69 in our constitution, which was proposed by the representatives of indigenous peoples in the 90s. And according to this article, Russia should respect indigenous peoples' rights and make use of international standards in this regard. But of course, Russian state isn't doing it. But we want to have access to territory. It's important for us to hunt or to fish. We need our traditional resources, and also we need to have the right in decision making. For example, if the state wants to build an oil factory or a road in our territory, indigenous peoples should have a say in this project. And if they don't participate in this project, it means that our rights are violated. So, self-determination for us, it's a very important issue. And of course, we support every indigenous people in self-determination up to creation of an independent state. It's quite normal. Take, for example, Greenland. They have opted for this way, but it's a very difficult path, and we need to have resources. We need to take a lot of factors into account: geography, economy, national composition of the population. For example, our small peoples, small indigenous peoples of Russia, well, we can't have independence because we don't have enough people. In Murmansk region, well, we had a representative from there. They have Sami people. They are 700,000 people, and altogether, and Sami represent less than 1%. So the idea of Sami independence for us, it's quite problematic. So self-determination for us is important. We want to have a say in big national projects, but in one way or another, we'll live in some country, in some state, even if we have new states on the Russian territory. We will still live there if we have, for example, independent Yakutia, but indigenous peoples will be there. We will represent a small minority. So for us, it is still important to have access to territory. It is important for us to make our rights respected, and we want to have a dialogue. So thank you, the organizers of this conference, for this dialogue. And Ukraine's victory in this war is crucial, because without Ukraine's victory, Russian Empire will exist for many more years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Now I